This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Hello from the Other Side edition from the Wednesday week. My name's Dan Fudge, and with me, I've got the chubbiest of all the Ewoks. That's a hell of a Twitter handle you've got there, Darren. Is that a name that you've given yourself, or is that something you were given on a building site somewhere?
Do you know what? I made the mistake when Twitter first came out. I thought it was like CB Radio, and my handle in the old CB Radio days was Chubby Ewok.
Right.
Or I had two. It was either Chubby Ewok or Pregnant Sausage. And I thought, you know what? No, Chubby Ewok, I'll do that one. And then it's just stuck, and I've never changed it. And I'm just like, oh, sod it, I'll just keep it now.
Have you ever had one of those really embarrassing old email addresses when you've applied for a job? I think I applied, when email became a thing as we were about, 17, 18. And I think mine was Fudgemeister General 69 or something like that. Have you ever applied for a job with an embarrassing email?
Yeah, definitely. Well, during the time The Matrix was on, I had I am the one at hotmail.com and applied for a job. I did not get the job.
Yeah, it's shocking information. So Darren's here tonight to talk to us about the upcoming Leeds United clash coming up this weekend as Sheffield Wednesday try to make it. I was going to say 5 games unbeaten, but that's not what we are. It's as we try and end a 4-game losing streak. Darren, I don't know where to start, and I don't know what to do. I tell you what, tell us about Leeds adjusting to life during the summer into the Championship, and anything that Sheffield Wednesday fans might be interested to hear.
Well, it's been a bit of a mess, to be fair, since the end of last season. The 49ers takeover, the relegation. It turned into a bit of a mess. Then trying to get a new manager in, managed in the end to get Daniel Farker in, which I think most Leeds fans were pretty happy with, really.
Mm-hmm.
To go from Marcelo Bielsa to Sam Allardyce, you've gone in 18 months. You've gone from champagne to gravy. So getting Farker in, I think, was fantastic. Really, a guy with championship pedigree who knows what he's doing to get out of that league. But then it's just turned into an absolute mess. Leeds have had hardly anything of a pre-season. They've had all sorts of problems off the field with loads of players going with these clauses that were in contracts during the Premier League that the previous director of football, Victor Orta, put in of relegation clauses. And so loads of the players have gone. And I think even like Liam Cooper, the Leeds United captain, on the last day of the season after they got relegated, stood up in the dressing room and said, look, if you don't want to be here, so he was pretty brutal about it. There's lots of merch out there with that on it now, and lots of them have done. Gone on loan to the point where a couple of the players, most notably sort of Willy Nonto, the Italian youngster, 19 years old, great player, wanted to leave and go to Everton, and then decided, well, I'm not going to play for you anymore, and decided just to sort of hang up his boots. Luis Sinisterra did the same thing. But I've got to really, really hand it to Daniel Farker on just how he's handled the whole situation, because it must have been an absolute minefield what he's been going through, not knowing what players he's got, going into the season with at some point, you just did not know who was going to be able to play. He's got injuries. He's got players that don't want to play for the club. But he seems to have come through that. The 49ers who now own Leeds have really sort of like put their backing into him, and they seem to just have started to turn the corner in the last week or so. I think the way he's dealt with Nonto's now back, and Sinisterra's now back. Whether or not that stays the same before the deadline day, I don't know. I think with Nonto, it was more He was getting advised by his agents about what he should do, and his agents were going to get a nice fee if he goes to Everton. I could understand if you wanted to go to a Premier League club. Absolutely, you can't like dissuade anybody from wanting to better their career and be playing in the Premier League week in, week out. But Everton, really? Have you seen them? I mean, God, why would you want to go there? Why would you not want to stay at Leeds for a year or so? Get them back into the Premier League, be a legend, and then go whenever you want. And you just sort of think it seems short-sighted. Maybe that's just like that focused sort of football fan brain of mine, but it just seems a bit short-sighted by some of these players that they're just going to go for the quick buck. So there's a fair few players that are disappointing that have gone. The most disappointing that's gone is Tyler Adams, because I think he was, before his injury last season, he was absolutely crucial to Leeds and how they played, and he was fantastic. And to see him going to Bournemouth, even though that's my hometown club, and I'm very happy that he's now playing for Bournemouth, I was sort of think, he'd actually, if he stuck around at Leeds just for another year or so, but you don't know what's going on in the background, and that's one of the things, isn't it? But yeah, it's been up until last weekend, it's been a complete and utter mess, really, at Leeds United. But things just seem to be getting better. There's lots more positivity around, certainly the Leeds United Twitter over the last 7 days.
I can imagine yours is as bad as ours at sometimes, but you seem to, like you say, have passed, turned the corner somewhat. I mean, it's been a summer of change, obviously, as you adjust to life in the Championship, having had a tumultuous time in the Premier League post Bielsa. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds have both got that, change horizon, as it were, looming over the club somewhat. So tell us about the upcoming game then. Do you think players like Nonto will strap his boots on, or do you reckon he will? Do you reckon there might be a bit of recrimination from his bad advisorship?
I think he's back now. I think he's certainly until the transfer window, whatever happens there. I think he's back. It was really, really interesting. He's named in the team tonight to play against Salford. So that's really, really interesting. But I mean, that front four at the weekend was frightening. And if that's how he's going, that front four of Sinistera, Nonto, Somerville, no, not Somerville, he didn't play at the weekend, Ruta, and of course Joel Pirro, who they've just signed from Swansea. That front four, my God, I mean, that's a very scary prospect. And coming up against a team like Ipswich, who are a fantastic team this last season and this season, so no mugs, and to come out away from Portman Road with the 3 points shows that there's definitely sort of like the seeds of something growing there. The thing they need to work on, obviously, the defence is utter shite at the moment. So you'll definitely be able to score against Leeds right at the moment. But it was really interesting over the weekend to see Daniel Farke. There was an injury to Sam Byram. He brought on, I think, Cresswell. I'm trying to remember who he did bring on for. He brought on someone for him, and I can't remember off the top of my head now. It might have been Cresswell. But no, Cody Drama. He brought on Cody Drama, but then substituted him after he made a mistake, and almost immediately. It was pretty amazing. So I love to see Daniel Farke sort of like he's not taking any crap. He's going for it. And if that's sort of like how he wants to, if he can get that defence sorted, and then if he can keep that front line together of those front four, I think it could be a pretty terrifying season for other teams in the Championship.
So what's I mean, in terms of Daniel Farke, like you say, he's got tremendous pedigree in terms of Championship football, but he was blessed with a high-end Championship striker in Timu Pukki. Nonto could fill that role for him, depending on how you play. But there was some great moments when he was in charge of Norwich, and they became the perennial yo-yo club, where they would win games 3-1, 3-2, 4-3, things like that. I mean, is the defence high up on Daniel Farke's list, or is it just a case of score more than them, like Kevin Keegan in the 90s?
Well, I mean, for sheer fun, then why not? If they do go down, I don't think it'll do much for anybody's blood pressure. But I think, yeah, they do need to do something. I mean, obviously, Liam Cooper's out at the moment, who would be first choice, and he's been, a bit of a stalwart in that Leeds defence. But you've got Charlie Cresswell, who's come in and come back off of loan from Millwall. The strike is still there, but I think they do need to do something in that defence. Hopefully, Farker has learnt from his time at Norwich that you can't just go all guns a-blazing and just hope that you're going to score one more than them. But they seem to be doing quite a bit of business, really. I think bringing in Joe Rodon from Tottenham was a real on loan for the season. That's a really interesting one. I think he's just taken a little bit of time to settle in to what the Championship is like, but I think he'll be a really key figure, I reckon, this season for Leeds. I think he might be on the bench tonight in the game at Salford. So look, the defence is the key, I think, for Leeds. If all of these attackers can keep good, and to have an actual number 9 like Joel Piero that they got from Swansea, I think Leeds haven't seen that for a while. Bamford was brilliant, but is just getting injured every other week now, really. So I think that was a key signing, getting a striker. I think Leeds fans were like, we've actually got someone, and Bournemouth hadn't taken them. It was a bit of a shock for them.
He does get kicked a lot, doesn't he, Bamford? So, I mean, in terms of the transfer window, I think I saw today you were linked with Jed Spence, a player that was instrumental in terms of Nottingham Forest's promotion to the Premier League, and then got his big move to Tottenham, lauded it to Neil Warnock. But Neil had some concerns about his attitude, and given the rousing speech by the captain at the end of the season, is he going to fit into that dressing room, or do you think Farker's the man to try and manage him through it? I mean, is that a signing you're excited about?
I think at the moment it's really exciting to see Leeds actually going for these players. I think, it looks like Jed Spence is having his medical right now as we talk.
Just in time for the weekend, then that'll be lovely.
It looks like it's going to be, the deal will be done in the next 24 hours, I think. So again, it's just a straight loan. There's no, they're not going to be buying him or anything like that. It's just to get gains under his belt. It's a £1 million loan fee, apparently, according to Phil Hay from The Athletic. I mean, look, there's a lot of rumours that have got a lot of substantiation from Fabrizio and from Phil Hay, because they're the only ones you can really sort of look at and think, right, yeah, this is actually going to happen. There was lots of talk about Pansil, Amiri. The Amiri one looks dead. I don't think that's going to happen. But Pansil, that seems to be just a bit of a financial wrangling between Genk. So that could still happen. But to see that these players and Leeds are not just final minutes of the deadline day just going out and getting someone random, it bodes well. It's a slightly different feeling from the days of Victor Orta in charge of the transfers. It seems a lot more positive, and the names that are being thrown around that seem to have a lot of credence to them, fans are getting excited about it.
Yeah, not too shabby. So I mean, God, it's amazing how the other half lives, isn't it? You know what I mean? So I'm just looking at, I mean, before we get on to this weekend specifically, let's talk about league expectations for Leeds United. I mean, some fans kind of view the playoffs as kind of like as like a modest approach to a league, don't they? They go, well, I don't think we'll get automatics, but I'll take playoffs because it shows some kind of progression through the season. But surely a club the size of Leeds United is looking to get straight out of that league, right?
I think that's got to be the plan. I mean, I remember not so long ago the chief exec coming out and saying we're not going to be dicking around with the playoffs anymore. When they lost in the playoffs, and lo and behold, they did get automatic in that COVID season. But I think after what's happened this year, if they can turn stuff around over this next month, and it really sort of build on what's been happening these last few days and week. I think, it's a long season. Anything could happen. I think they've got to be going for automatics. They've really got to be going. I know a lot of Leeds fans are more than happy to be back in the Championship because they hated being in the Premier League and the experience of being in the Premier League. And for the last 2 years, it was just awful. It was not fun. And so being back in the Championship, it almost feels like proper football's back again, which is weird because you sort of want to be where the big money is, but actually from sort of like a week in, week out sort of like enjoyment, the Championship's probably more enjoyable. So look, if they get in the playoffs, then great. The playoffs are only good if you're a neutral. So if you're involved in it, I mean, you guys have obviously had some interesting playoffs, certainly in the end of last season. You came out on the right side, but it's so close to being like utter devastation. So it always feels like it's a carrot in front of a donkey, and only one person's going to get a chomp of that carrot. So yeah, I think, worst case scenario playoffs, but I think they've got to be going for automatics.
Absolutely. So I tell you what, let's get on to the game this weekend. I mean, God, this is a question I tend to ask some of the people on this, and I say, is there any players that stick out to you on our side? I mean, or who should we be keeping an eye on coming up this weekend? I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, it's a local derby, all bets are off, right?
Yeah, I think so. And where we talked before, you just sort of it's going to be an absolute humdinger, I think. People will sort of like forget about everything else and they'll just absolutely go hammer and tongs at it. I think this could be a fantastic game. I really, really do. Certainly the way Leeds played attacking against Ipswich, I think sort of all bets are off, really. If they do go with that front four again of Nonto, Ruta, Sinistera and Pirro, I think that, that is a frightening front four and could cause any team serious damage. And, they put 4 past Ipswich. But they did show they've got a bit of a soft underbelly and let in 3 goals. So it shows there would be goals in this one. I don't think there's any doubt of that. But I think Leeds have, depending on what happens tonight, I don't think you can read too much into an EFL trophy game. But I think Leeds have got to go into this pretty confident after last weekend and feel a little bit better about life in general after a pretty miserable start to the season. But then you've got to fear that Sheffield Wednesday, they're hurting, and it's after a pretty bad start to the season, and they'll be wanting to prove themselves against their local rivals. So I tell you what, it's mouthwatering. It could be an absolute goal fest, this one.
I wish the Sheffield Wednesday fans would see it that way. I think we're expecting getting drubbed about 3-0 if we're really honest with ourselves. So listen, thanks a lot for joining us, Darren. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks a lot for joining us on Hello from the Other Side from the Wednesday week. My name's Dan Fudge. Tonight we had Darren Harper from, what's the name of your podcast, Darren?
LS11.
LS11. So if you want to learn more about Leeds, get yourselves in. I don't know if you're going to, but we'll see if you want to anyway. Thanks a lot. See you later.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.